There's some definitely downsides to it. I would be very interested in an X4. All right, today let's talk about something I didn't think I was going to get. Now that I've had my hands on it, I have a couple of opinions. So we have the Insta360 X3, the creative opportunities that this thing could bring with its uniqueness of having a 360 camera. Now I know this thing's been out for a little while now. So many reviews out there because I probably watched them all. I might be way late to the party on this one. I've had this for I think a month ago, just before Christmas, and have had a couple of adventures with it. Had a chance to use it in a few different situations. I do like it a lot. That's straight off the bat. Beyond that, there's some great things about it. There's some definitely downsides to it. Now, if tomorrow they came out with a Insta360 X4 and they fix some of the things that I think this thing needs upgrading on, then I would be very interested in an X4. But as it stands right now, the Insta360 X3, it's been out for quite a while, and some of the things I love about it, again, just the creativity, the things you can get with it, the drone-like shots you can get, the fact that it deletes the pole is just, it's cool. And I don't know why other companies don't use their software to, digitally remove a pole. In this one, just because it's obviously in the seam of where the two cameras meet, it's easy to do. Whereas like a GoPro, it could be anywhere within its frame. So that I understand, but just the fact that this thing can do it is so cool. It makes your shots look just so unique. Of course, you'll check out a shadow on the floor and you'll see, oh, there's the camera, there's the stick. It's not a drone shot, or it's not just flying in midair, but just when you're holding it out and the camera's just floating, it's so cool. And just the different creativity aspects of it, it's fantastic. And then the flip side, my biggest reservation was like, can my brain comprehend it enough to figure out some cool and interesting ways to use it? Now, I think I still have a lot of room to grow with it, but in the month or so I've had with it, I've been able to experiment with it and use it in a few different ways that really surprised me. Some of the other reasons I got this would have been, so as an added bonus, let's say you get the little, it's the bullet time, right? They're throwing it around. Now, I've had this in manual mode as opposed to I've had this in automatic mode as opposed to manual exposure. And I think when you do the bullet time with that, you can see the stitch line because the two different cameras are trying to get two different exposures, and then it exposes the stitch in the image. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So I need to play around with that a little bit more, but I like the fact that you can do a bullet time, and I got the little lanyard thing to do with. It's pretty cool. The underwater case, the dive case, and in Florida when we were there in the Miami Keys, in the Florida Keys recently, I put the case on, and there was one day that I was able to, we were playing around on the beach, and I put it on, and it didn't really serve too much of a purpose at that point because the water was kind of murky and it was freezing cold. It's in the middle of December. So I'm really looking forward to utilizing the dive case more and utilizing that, and most likely it's going to be pools, and because in Vegas we don't have many oceans around. So it's going to be probably my brother-in-law's pool and experimenting and playing around with it there. So I think that's a better environment, at least for this. Now, of course, you don't necessarily need the dive case for a pool because it doesn't go that deep. But to get a couple of shots, I think I want to experiment with, and I think I would need it. Either way, I've got it. Either way, it was part of the Black Friday deal that I had, so it's there. The different selfie sticks you can get. This one is pretty long. I'm not going to give you any specifics for it, but the really big one, it's got the little yellow ring on it. It's 3 meters. That one goes up pretty far, and you can do some cool things with that. So I think that one, it's $100. I think I got it free with the Black Friday deal, and I don't think I'd be spending $100 on a selfie stick. But if you have this and you don't have that, and you have the $100, I think in that case it's worth it. The other positives are obviously just the cool things you can do with it, the editing suite, the way you can change things. So one scenario, here's a great example. we were on a boat in Florida, and there was some dolphins around. So basically I've got this at the front of the boat, it's up high, and as I'm doing that, there's a dolphin over here, there's a dolphin over there, you know, in the distance, and this, that, and the other. And cool and all, in a traditional camera, whether it's phone, GoPro, any type of camera, in that instance, you're moving around real quick to try and get, you know, a sporadic moment that otherwise wouldn't be able to be captured, and the footage might not be all that great if you're moving really quick from, you know, a dolphin coming up here and a dolphin coming up there. So where this came into place is it was up in the air, and within that software, I can say, okay, look 360 around, okay, there's a dolphin, so zoom in and put a keyframe there, and it says, okay, there's one and there's another. Now you're zooming in, you're punching in to, you know, a couple of hundred, maybe it's 100 feet, 50 feet away, and you're not going to get the best quality in that instance of a zoomed in image of a dolphin in the distance. But there was one dolphin that was probably 10, 15 feet away from our boat, and I was able to get it because I had this out there, and then all of a sudden we see it over to the side of the boat, and I just kind of point the lens in that general direction, and the footage came out great, and I was able to zoom in because I could get a really good shot. So this thing can capture things that you normally wouldn't be able to, or even another example would be same vacation in Florida, a wedding, my sister-in-law's wedding. I put this on a stand on the middle of the dance floor and just let it run for probably an hour or two while people are just having fun and dancing and having a merry time at a wedding. The cool, fun, funny memories we caught with this, again, you wouldn't be able to get with a traditional camera. Traditional camera would have been, okay, you set up a frame and it just, you know, you have your field of view and that's it, it's kind of stuck. This thing, my brother-in-law was carrying it around and doing some goofy stuff with it. It was getting moved around to kind of wherever the action was. And we just got some pretty cool family shots, and that was one of the main reasons I wanted to take this to Florida. So Black Friday came around, great deal, got it, took it to Florida with us. Very unexpected because I didn't think I was actually going to buy this and take it, but we did. I'm very happy with that now. The flip side to what I just told you about the dance floor scenario, it was in low light scenario, and this thing really isn't all that good in low light. You're capturing memories, you're capturing shots, but they're not 4K, they're barely HD, and the sensor size is so small that you're going to get a lot of noise and a lot of distortion in your images, and especially if you've got a light source on one side as opposed to the other, and you don't have your manual exposure set, then you're going to see the stitch line in there. So that's one thing I would love them to fix, either a bigger sensor, you know, the fact that this thing is, I think it's 4K, right, is what they say. I'm going to turn it on right now. Every time I've used this, I've used it in its highest capacity, and okay, 5.7K. Yeah, that's for 360. So 5.7K, 30 frames a second in its normal setup. But your image is not 5.7K, it's not 4K, it's not 3K, it is HD, 1080p, right? Because you've got the full 360, which is what the 5K is representing, and then you're taking your frame and you're looking at it from a framing point of view, whether it's vertical or horizontal, and you can move that around, but that's HD at that point. And then if you're adding in low light, you're really not getting the best footage coming from it, but again, you're capturing things that you may not have been able to capture otherwise. So it's a trade-off. So if in X4 hypothetical situation, they increase this thing to like 10K, and then your images were coming out as 2K or whatever it may be, whatever the next bump up would be, and the sensor size was bigger to better low light scenarios, then fantastic, right? That would be a massive consideration to get this thing, to upgrade at that point, even though I've just got this. It would be a decision we'd have to certainly think about and consider. But with its current iteration, I do like it, but that's obviously one big drawback. Well, here's one thing I want to mention. So it's an action camera, right? Primarily. So the action things it's going to capture, it's going to do pretty good. And in that scenario, you're going to be probably in a pretty outdoors, so maybe it's a well-lit environment. And the stabilization obviously is great because of the 360-ish-ness of it. I guess my gripe is going to be with that low light scenario, which is most action scenarios are not going to be in low light most likely. So I can say, you know, if we're strictly saying this is an awesome 360 travel camera, action camera, then it's going to check all them boxes. if it's for like family stuff, more situations come up where it's more low light scenarios and then therefore not getting the best footage. But I've really enjoyed it. I'm excited to use it more. I did take it on a hike as well, and I had it in my backpack for all the times, like behind me, so you get kind of, in my drone shots I got of it, where it was, you know, basically up and in my backpack sticking out, it looked like a radio antenna or like something from Boba Fett or a bounty hunter with like a rocket launcher or something sticking out my back. But it got some cool shots, and that was kind of like my first playing around with it on this little hike that I did near our house. Been up there many times, and I'll show the footage now. I was very happy with what I got. It was cool. I'm excited to play around with like the time-lapse type stuff and the maybe even some star stuff, you know, getting some astronomy type star videos, because I think that stuff just looks cool, and creating something from the stars and whatnot. One thing, so here's a little update, a new update. The action camera came out, and I'm forgetting the name of the Insta360 action camera. I think it's the action something, I don't know. Action camera, let's call it that, the newest one. And within that, they have a chip where it's like AI enabled, and within its software, you can do like these little AI clips where it'll take your image and it will warp it in a style of AI. And I think the ones I've seen around like Cyberpunk and stuff, they put an update out less than a week ago where this and the Insta360 Flow, and I think maybe it's even the Go 3, I'd have to double check on that one, but they've enabled some features for this and some other ones. This one does carry a lot of the cool AI stuff on the app, so like the sky swap and whatever. So when my first Insta360 product was actually the Flow. The Flow is limited to what features you could use on their app, whereas I would look on all of the different options, all the different themes they had available, and like the X3 had all of them, so I was kind of excited to play around with that. And I haven't really, it's cool, it's there, and I've done a little bit of the AI stuff, which is now available, and it wasn't. But the themes, the sky swaps, it kind of takes a lot of processing time, and really I just haven't got the patience at that point. Which now that I say that, patience, it brings me on to the other negative side that I think, well, at least my opinion of what I've encountered, which is it does add to your workflow, right? It's not as simple as taking your footage out of the camera, getting the shots that you want, and just getting a little clip here and there, and then, you know, there you go. You have to put it into the software, I've been putting it in the desktop, and you're basically editing from start to finish the footage, the complete clip. So if you've got and I wouldn't recommend this, if you've got a 10-minute clip, you're essentially watching it for 10 minutes, or you're skimming through it and finding a part that you might like. But essentially, because it's 360, you're reviewing it, and then you're saying, okay, I've just watched a minute of my footage. Let's spin the camera around and see what was on the other side of it, and see if there's any cool shots there. So you might be going back 10 minutes or a minute, reviewing it, saying, okay, I like that angle, I like that angle, and you can get infinite or many angles from a minute clip. But if you've got a 10-minute clip there, then you're constantly reviewing your footage and you're constantly spinning it around. Sometimes it can play with your head a little bit as you're spinning it and getting the angles that you want. So the keyframing stuff is cool, but when you've got a lot going on and there's a lot of things around the camera, there's a lot that it captures, a lot of data there, therefore you've got to review it, right? It's really just inevitable that if you're shooting in 360, yeah, it's gonna add to your workflow, it's gonna add more work to get footage from it. And the software does a great job of doing that and making it very simple. I didn't look at any tutorials, I didn't look anything up, I just kind of started playing around with it. And it's like, okay, there's a plus button, okay, there's a keyframe, and there's this and there's that, the speed differences you can do, the effects you can add on there, the color correction, not correction, but color enhancements you can do in there. And I think it looks really cool. It really brightens up your footage. So it's pretty intuitive, but it adds to your workflow. So I did a wedding video for my sister-in-law and my brother-in-law, whose wedding we were attending in Florida. And I had all this different footage from all these different sources. And the 360 footage was the last that I went through, and that was like a whole evening, as opposed to like actively putting things on my timeline for this video. It ended up being 20 minutes long, the full video. I spent a whole night just reviewing footage from this and taking 5 seconds here, 10 seconds there, 30 seconds here, 10 seconds there of different footage and exporting it all and putting it into a file. And then the next night I came around and I started adding it and putting the sequence together in a timeline. So it just added more work to it, whereas all my other stuff, I basically had it all organized and I could just, add it straight into my timeline and not really have to mess around with it. So again, it makes sense. You're filming in 360, so you're gonna have to do a little bit more work with it. So if you're prepared for that, perfectly fine. If you have the patience for it, perfectly fine. And I do, and I will, because this thing can add quite a lot. So I'm excited for the underwater stuff. I'm excited to take it on more adventures. I mean, my wife might be going on a hike at some point, on a date hike, and I'm sure I'm 100% taking this, and we'll see what kind of footage we can get. I'll just say just to kind of wrap up, but that Black Friday bundle that I got, I've got an unboxing video of everything I got. I think that unboxing video was between 10 and 20 minutes long because there was so much. It did come with a lot, and I'm so happy with the things that it did come with. Like this selfie stickers came in handy. This one's yay big, but a little bit more practical, and obviously just fits in your hand right here. Yeah, I'd have to go back. I've got literally a bag underneath my desk here just full of boxes from when I did that unboxing, and most of it I've got out, and most of it's in a spot somewhere. But there's so much you can do, and I'm happy to tell you I haven't scratched any of the lenses. I've been keeping it in either this or the silicone one that came that kind of fits most of the way over the top of the two lenses, and I haven't scratched it yet. Happy about that, because I was pretty scared of scratching this. And the one time I did take the dive case out, that one I was pretty paranoid of scratching, because it's just big dome and you don't want to, in a beach with sand and rocks and whatever, you just don't want to dink it. But my conclusion on this thing is I obviously think it's worth it. If you haven't got one yet, I was really late to the train on this one. It's just very cool if you have any interest in them. They're crazy fun, and again, some of the limitations are just your brain and thinking about how to use it effectively and how the shot's going to look. Because I've plenty of times I've just kind of swung it around and moved it around, and you're like, okay, maybe be a little bit more gentle and smoother next time. So let me know if you have any questions in the comments. I always get back to any questions pretty quickly, and I'm excited to see what they do next. Again, if they release the next 4 tomorrow, I would be definitely researching the heck out of that thing to see if it's worth an upgrade. I wouldn't get away with it. My wife definitely wouldn't let me. It's not in the budget. But with that said, cool camera and highly recommend. So hope that helped. Hope it makes sense. And I hope you have a fantastic day. Take care. Bye. Time to dance.